Ladies and gentlemen, this America of ours, this house we live in, was built on a strong foundation. Men and women of every race, every color, and every religion have shared in the labor which created this wonderful country. Of course, there are some who would tear down all that you and those who came before you have so gloriously built up. Know who they are. They carry their made-in-Europe poisons into our schools and our factories and even into our homes. They seek to set race against race, class against class, and religion against religion. That's why I ask you with all the earnestness at my command to support the National Conference of Christians and Jews, the organization which sponsors Brotherhood Week. Whatever you can give will serve a noble purpose, and truly you will be paying a very small premium on a policy ensuring decency, understanding, and justice on dealings one with another.
Come on in here, come on in here, Alexander Ragtime Band. Come on in here, come on in here, the best band in the land. They can play a bugle call like you never heard before. So natural that you wanna go to war. It's just the bestest band, whatever, oh, honey lamb. Come on in here, come on in here, Alexander Ragtime Band. Come on in here, come on in here, the best band in the land. They can play a bugle call like you never heard before. So natural that you wanna go to war. It's just the bestest band, whatever, oh, honey lamb.
The nation's first draft test. Mostly from government offices, they're enrolling to dance with soldier boys in nearby camps.
Well, I have a lot of friends who have been drafted in the Army, and I think it would be nice if I could help them out in their recreation.
Excellent.
The drawing is just like the real thing. First pick, first to dance with a man in uniform. Lucky gal, she goes with the group rushed out to the Arlington Cantonment to make a tea dance complete. With over 1 million men now in Uncle Sam's growing army, a good stomper should be more popular than ever.
Mr. Powell, what was the language spoken in your home in your early childhood?
English. Brooklyn thrown in there.
Yes, true. Yeah. Is there a radio in your home?
Yes, we have several radios.
What occupation, Mr. Powell, do you consider as your usual occupation at which you are physically able to perform?
Well, I like to think I'm an actor.
Study, old boy.
American music was growing up fast. George Gershwin, the most gifted of the young composers, moved back and forth between Broadway and the concert stage, was equally at home in both.
President Eisenhower's first press conference since his operation finds the big question concerning Vice President Nixon as his running mate. President Eisenhower's first press conference since his operation finds the big question concerning Vice President Nixon as his running mate. Also, Harold E. Stassen's backing of Governor Herter of Massachusetts. While declining to state a preference, he says,
I've expressed my opinion in front of this body of Dick Nixon so often that I think there should be no doubt about my satisfaction with him as running mate. But I've also said, I'm not even nominated yet. You must not forget that. And I do uphold the right of the delegates to the convention to nominate whom they choose.
It seems, a reporter comments, that President Eisenhower and his cabinet have given Mr. Nixon's candidacy tacit consent.
I've certainly given the consent. Now, Remember this, though, none of us is conducting a campaign for anybody. Now, Mr. Stassen, as I understand it, says he's going out to conduct a campaign. And that's a different story.
And a campaign it is, as an Eisenhower Herder headquarters is opened in Washington by Mr. Stassen. He predicts the Republican convention will pick Herder over Nixon. Stassen himself is on temporary leave from his job as the president's disarmament advisor. Moving to the Democratic side, Senator Estes Kefauver makes headlines. He takes his coonskin cap from the ring and throws his support to Adlai E. Stevenson. He stresses party unity.
Surveying my present situation realistically, I have concluded that I can make a great contribution toward that unity and eventual victory for our party by withdrawing my name at this time as a nominee for the presidency, and by asking my supporters to wholeheartedly give their backing to Adlai Stevenson.
In Chicago, Mr. Stevenson has hurried to his campaign headquarters from his farm home to greet the surprise announcement. He thanks the Tennessee lawmaker for what he calls this gracious and spontaneous expression of support. Mr. Stevenson says Averill Harriman is now the chief obstacle between him and another try at the White House.
Greatest headlines of the century. Dateline, Berlin, August 1st, 1936. In a moment, the story. Beginning in 1896, the International Olympic Games had represented the pitting of individual athletes against one another for top honors in the designated sporting events. But over the years, the individual competition had given way to one of much broader scope that found the nations of the world battling each other for team victories. And in 1936, this keen competitive spirit between countries became of paramount importance. The 11th Olympiad was to be held in Berlin, hosted by a man whom the entire globe had good reason to fear, Adolf Hitler. The Brandenburg gates were draped with swastikas the day of the initial parade. Earlier, on Greece's historic Mount Olympus, the first Olympic torch had been lighted from a special ceremonial fire prepared by a group of young women dressed in the gowns of ancient Greece. The first of a long chain of runners lit his torch and trotted off on the initial leg of the journey to Berlin. At a designated spot, another runner took up the flame, and on went the relay of the ceremonial torch. Finally, on August 1st, the last of the relay teams sprinted into Berlin and into the 325-acre Reich sports field. An overflow crowd of 105,000 people stood at attention for the historic moment. Der Führer extended his salute. The runner carried the torch up the long flight of marble steps leading to the Olympiad lamp. The crowd roared its approval as the traditional symbol of the games was lighted. Of the games themselves, America won the majority of the gold medals in the track and field events, while Germany amassed the overall highest total of points. The undisputed star of the competition was Ohio State University track star Jesse Owens. The Buckeye Bullet took gold medals in 3 events, the 100 and 200-meter men's sprints and the running broad jump. Hitler was to snub Owens, as he did almost all of the American winners. He officially announced that he would forego meeting the victorious athletes of the various events, since it was impossible for him constantly to remain at the stadium, and failure to greet all, he said, would arouse ill feeling. The closing day ceremonies found the Olympic flame, for untold centuries the symbol of international peace, being extinguished. Just as 3 years later, the light of peace all over the world would be blacked out by this very same country, which in 1936 had hosted civilization's 11th modern-day Olympic Games. Greatest headlines of the century. Dateline World, 1942. In a moment, the story. World World War I found the women of the United States and Britain answering their country's call by pitching in on the home front, filling necessary civilian jobs normally held by men. The so-called weaker sex proved their strength by taking on a variety of jobs that required muscle as well as ingenuity. Sign painting and mail carrying were enhanced by the new beauty brought to them. Airplane factories like this one in England were busy beehives of female activity under the watchful eyes of occasional dignitaries such as the Prince of Wales. But in 1942, as war once again engulfed the world, a brand new experiment in female war effort was launched under the jaundiced eye of the military high command. The Army announced the opening of enlistments of the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. The girls in specially designed uniforms launched into training at Fort Des Moines, Iowa. 784 young women were carefully selected for the experiment. When it became obvious that a women's service auxiliary would prove its worth in freeing the fighting man from the necessary desk jobs, all the other military services followed suit in quick order. Lady Marines, known as BAMs, came into being. In the Coast Guard, they were known as SPARs. The Navy called its auxiliary the Waves. And they did their job well. The WAC commander, Colonel Ovita Kalpabi, attested to that in a formal speech upon returning from the various overseas fronts.
I have just returned from an inspection tour of Women's Army Corps personnel in foreign theaters of operations. In England, I have seen the WACs in ETO headquarters and the Air WAC serving with the 8th Air Force at work in vast chart rooms, plotting bomber courses over Nazi Europe. I have seen our women in Italy serving with General Clark's 5th Army. They handle the vast communications work that is necessary to keep an army on the march. In Egypt and North Africa, I have seen our women at many of the jobs that are necessary in the operation of a vast military headquarters. They have earned unlimited praise for their work, good humor, and demeanor. They are sharing the war responsibility of our American fighting men as best they can.
The chase has been going on for days. Police are on the alert throughout suburban Hamburg, Germany. You see, these monkeys, and they're everywhere, well, these monkeys, some 46 of them, escaped from the Hamburg Zoo. Every officer and zookeeper capable of running the 100-yard dash in under 20 seconds has been marshaled for the big monkey hunt. They've nabbed his buddy, but they'll have to fight to catch him. He's one monkey who has taken a shine to freedom. Say, what's under that blanket? Another monkey. Soon the hunter and the pursued reach an agreement. The monkeys will surrender providing there's no cut in their peanut ration. And so back to the zoo as Hamburg's maddest chase comes to an end.
New York hails the gala world premiere of The Rose Tattoo, a benefit extraordinary at which Red Buttons is a doorman, here welcoming Sid Caesar and his wife. Tonight's entire proceeds go to the Actors Studio, and now we see Mary Martin and husband Richard Halliday. Paramount Pictures president Barney Balaban and Mrs. Balaban, as Times Square witnesses the season's most brilliant gathering of show business celebrities. Director Daniel Mann and producer Hal Wallace come from Hollywood to see their picture premiered. The interest becomes electric as Marilyn Monroe arrives. Miss Monroe is to serve as an usherette as her contribution to the non-profit workshop for actors, directors, and playwrights, which is the Actors Studio. And now Marlon Brando, generating the enthusiasm which greets big names of the screen, in person, before the fans. After the close-up, let's move inside to join a celebrity-studded line of usherettes. Leslie Caron, Joyce Grenfell, Vivica Linfors, Geraldine Page, Rita Gam, and Helen Hayes. The ticket taker, Joan Crawford, and that's Jane Mansfield, and Hope Hampton. A night of distinguished names, color, and excitement, and Gotham's salute to a new VistaVision triumph.
Theater goers in Leningrad and Moscow see something new on the Soviet stage. Porgy and Bess, played by a visiting American company in the traditional American way. 2,000 Russians pay up to $15 for tickets on the sellout opening night in Leningrad's Kirov Theater. After 13 appearances, the troupe goes to Moscow for 12 more. The Soviet Union put up $150,000 for the tour, a red investment in capitalism that paid off. Audiences are so big, the Russian government is getting repaid in full. An American classic scores a hit, earning a 10-minute ovation on opening night in Russia.
A tent city at the Highland State Recreation Area near Milford, Michigan for 5,000 teenage Girl Scouts and their leaders. Probably the largest outdoor gathering of girls in history, they salute Mrs. Roy F. Layton, National Girl Scout President. This first large-scale encampment brings girls from every state in possession, Canada, and overseas. Alaskan Scouts swap clothing and trinkets. Sacramento, California Scouts demonstrate how early settlers panned for gold. A patrol from Houston, Texas demonstrates rope twirling. All can demonstrate cooking, a favorite Scout pastime. We join a patrol from Pennsylvania in Dutch costume. National dances brighten the Girl Scouts encampment, a notable venture which has for its theme a greater appreciation of traditions and heritage.
A visit to West Point by a fashionable group of younger ladies. Actually, they're showing back-to-school fashions, for it is August when a girl's fancy turns to stylish attire for the school desk set. Brushing up on history, too, here where New York's Hudson River Valley is viewed from the Military Academy's Trophy Point. For the preteens, Twina Originals, all cotton or a combination of solid rayon-like linen and woven plaid gingham. Ancient cannon and modern lily beads, one an eye-filling border provincial print, the other boasting full-gathered skirt and handy pockets. Sister dresses as new as two fresh pieces of chalk, striped skirt, synthetic jersey knit bodice. Looking at famed Battle Monument, this sister act in plaid gingham with designer Jack Spiro's touch of very cute velveteen waistcoat. School days and gingham, traditional with American girlhood. Man-tailored collar and French cuffs on three-quarter-length sleeves highlight the outfit on the right. The hooded dress is her friend's own special delight. Delightful to a girl's taste.
The U.S. cruiser Columbus and two destroyers salute a goodwill boat, British Malaya. For the visitors, a warm greeting from the Sultan of Selangor, which is one of the Malayan states. Then an exchange of gifts with Malaya's chief minister, Tengku Abdul Rahman. As for shore leave, well, the sailors are ready for a tour of Kuala Lumpur, capital of this country which has the world's richest source of tin. Some sightsee, fascinated by a relatively new liberty port in the Far East. Some donate blood to the capital's own blood bank. Some go night clubbing and find that when it comes to dancing and music, there's hardly a language barrier. Now it's open house, or rather open ship, as the sailors play host. For the Malayans, a picture of U.S. Navy life and a chance to meet Americans who make a big hit in their brief visit. High Style gets aboard at Miami for a flying trip to Havana, Cuba. The girls are tall fashion center models, 5'10" and over. They join a vacationing party winging to our neighbor island. Entertainment in the sky is part of a whirlwind journey from Miami shores to gay Havana. Havana. Our lovely skyscraper models show their sports outfits. Two-piece cotton traveler suit for Dottie and a knit creation for Pat. A three-piece checked linen coordinate ensemble for Jenny and full circle skirt with abstract motif for Jean. Ahead is the glamorous evening of night clubbing with Latin rhythms and evening clothes to match the scintillating hours. A turquoise semi-formal with lace and net, beige file sheath cocktail dress, 14-karat gold princess line gown, and black velvet complemented by flowing black net over white taffeta. The Monte Carlo of the Americas. All this and the gaiety of a tropical night in Havana. Cuba comes up with an innovation in its latest bid for tourism.
Well, Miss Hepburn, War and Peace must certainly be the longest film you've ever appeared in. Was it the most exciting to make?
That's always a very difficult question to answer because up till now, every picture I've been in, I've had the good fortune to be able to choose. That is to say, I've been in that picture of my own free will and choice.
Weren't you this time?
And I was, and therefore every time I'm equally excited. It's not that I can say that I'm any more excited now than with War and Peace or vice versa.
I understand you've always wanted to make a film with your husband, and he stars with you in this one. Was it fun, or was it an experience you don't want to repeat?
No, it's great fun, and I must say it's the perfect way of living to be able to work together. And although we realize that the occasions will be very rare, we hope there will be other opportunities.
I hope you'll forgive me being very feminine and personal, but I adore your dress, and I haven't seen anything quite like it over here. It's obviously rather like the sort of things you wore as Natasha. Could you stand up and let me have a look?
Certainly. It isn't too crumpled in the airplane.
Do you like the style very much yourself?
I like it very much, and I particularly like this one, and naturally I did choose it. You recognize the Empire style,
yes,
which is the great influence in the Paris collections at the moment.
Do you think that
extensive field trials were conducted across the nation? A $7.5 million venture paid for by the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis, the greatest test of its kind in medical history. 1,830,000 children took part. 440,000 received the Salk vaccine. 210,000 received dummy shots. The remaining million-plus received nothing. Brave little pioneers, each and every one who took the shots.
Paper of any size divides its local territory into districts. Reporters are given certain beats in these districts, such as the City Hall, which they cover day after day. The hospital beat is a valuable news source, and one on which events sometimes happen with startling speed. Other reporters cover the airports, bus and railroad stations, which provide a good opportunity to interview celebrities, arriving or departing. Reporters on beats are known as outside men, since they work away from the office most of the time, gathering news. Every reporter must secure from the people along his beat a steady supply of the everyday happenings which fill most of the local news columns of a newspaper.
Air Force Base, Honolulu, first stop on a 10-day round-the-world goodwill flight for Vice President and Mrs. Nixon. The Vice President is traveling as President Eisenhower's personal representative. The traditional hospitality of the islands was never more in evidence, as Mrs. Nixon is virtually overwhelmed with Hawaiian leis of leaves and flowers. U.S. naval officers join the Nixons, who receive Honolulu guests. Mr. Nixon's trip is perhaps tied to future United States relations with the Far East. His itinerary includes Manila. Then on to Indochina and Formosa will go the Vice President and Mrs. Nixon. A super constellation and a DC-7 which left Los Angeles minutes apart, flying east. In heavy thunderclouds, they disappeared from the sky. Down there in Arizona's Grand Canyon, they came to eerie rest. Search planes wing over the area where the updrafts and downdrafts catch the camera plane and make steady shots difficult to secure. The wreckage of the two planes, with a total of 128 persons aboard, is strewn across a forest of rock near the confluence of the Colorado and Little Colorado rivers. You can see the charred spots, and here and there bits of metal glinting in the sun. The two ships crashed about a mile apart. There are theories the airliners collided in flight. The turbulent winds among the rocky pinnacles of the canyon hamper removal operations, but an Air Force helicopter later gets through. The Civil Aeronautics Board will hold a public hearing on the crash, history's worst commercial aviation disaster.
The new hat fashions for fall are shown in New York. This is a red velvet tambourine style with a touch of romance. A Robin Hood hat by Shanda is a colorful newcomer. A red silk chiffon band encircles this brown wool hat stitched with red and white. Reflecting a turn-of-the-century influence is Walter Florell's ripple brim Watteau of white fox. The period of the early 1900s is one of the predominating trends for the coming season. Other new influences for fall are seen in a Dior creation. It combines eye-catching height with the furry look. It's in beige tone with an off-center ribbed silk bow. The tall and furry trend is also stressed by designer John Fredericks in this stovepipe cognac seal cloche with wide velvet band. A pretty silhouette becomes an arresting cuffed pillbox chapeau of wool jersey in a challis print. A smart and special headdress for the girl who's looking to fashion this fall.